Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mind of Minister, a podcast recorded here at the Seattle Betsuing Buddhist Temple, where we discuss questions or topics submitted by our listeners. My name is Jason Yokoyama, and I'm here with Reverend Katsu.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for listening. I'm Reverend Katsu.
Since this is our first episode, Sensei, I thought it'd be good if we do some introductions first to introduce ourselves and this podcast.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Reverend Katsuya Kusunoki. I'm originally from Nagasaki, Japan. Then I was assigned to Buddhist Church of Lodi 2010. Then I was reassigned to Seattle Betsuing Buddhist Temple 2017. So I'm here in Seattle about how many? About 7 years. Yeah, then my hobby is baseball.
Nice. As I mentioned, my name is Jason. I am a member here at the Seattle Buddhist Temple. I grew up here at the temple. I grew up in the Seattle area. And now I serve as a certified minister's assistant here at the temple, as well as I am on the board of directors and was recently elected the second vice chairperson of the temple. Yay. And then also here with us today in Densho recording is Alex Sakamoto, who is our producer, editor, sound guy. He really does everything for us. So thank you, Alex. All right, let's get on to our questions. So to start us off on this introduction episode, I thought we'd start with Sensei. Why do you want to have a Mind of Ministers podcast?
Yeah, the first is, as a Buddhist minister, I should provide some study session or educational program. So, but actually, I'm not good at doing some type of class, teaching the Buddhism at the class. It is more easier for me to do more like a conversational programs. So that's the one reason. Then two is, I think it was the beginning of the pandemic when my wife mentioned, she was really missing the in-person gathering. The one is, go to the convention, then meet other lots of friends. Then after dinner or banquet, we go to the hospitality room. Then we eat, drink, then have lots of conversations. Then gradually, we have more drinks. Then we talk more and more. Then just about after 10 p.m., so kind of getting drunk, the ministers are talking a lot. Then my wife was always listening those ministers' conversations. Then, we sometimes talk silly topics, but even in that, my wife was saying, oh, there's a Buddha Dharma is in there. It was really interesting. Of course, Dharma message is good. Listening to the Dharma message is good. But sometimes those more casual conversation between ministers are so interesting. So then she recommended, why don't you do that for the YouTube or some other social media type of program? So that's why we started this Minds of Minister.
Nice. I mean, from my own personal experience, I say I also very much enjoy the hospitality room at convention.
I know. Yeah.
Okay. So we have here some beverages that we're enjoying with our special Mind of Minister sticker with our logo. For those of you online, please check out our YouTube video or our communications so you can see this lovely drawing of Sensei that we have here. But I guess to move on to our next question, Sensei. So you mentioned that you first were assigned to Lodi Buddhist Temple, but now you're here at the Seattle Betsuing. So how exactly did that happen?
So, in reality, not many Japanese ministers are coming to the United States, just a few. So I was born and raised at the temple family in Nagasaki. Then I grew up at the temple. So this means, every weekend, my temple used to have, even still, but they have a Dharma school every Saturday night. So as a child, I was kind of forced to go to Dharma school every week, Saturday night. Then, that was my expectation. My parents never forced me to go, but I was feeling some kind of pressure or expectation to go to the Dharma school every week. So I didn't like it. I didn't like to go to Saturday nights Dharma school. Then after I graduated from high school, then I have to choose which university or college I go. Then I was always looking for university or college not in my hometown, somewhere far from Nagasaki. Then I chose to go to the Miyazaki University. Then my major was primary education. I wanted to become a school teacher first. But, when I was in the college, somehow not becoming a school teacher right after I graduated, I wanted to do something different. I wanted to go to outside of Japan. But I didn't know what I want to do. But my senior students or baseball senpai, they joined for the Japanese Peace Corps volunteer programs. Then, that sounds interesting. I didn't expect to pass the exam. There's an entrance exam. So I didn't think, I'm going to pass that exam, but fortunately, surprisingly, I passed the exam. Then I was sent to Zimbabwe, Africa. First I didn't know what is Zimbabwe. I didn't know even this is a country's name. Then I was sent to Zimbabwe, Africa for 2 years. I was coaching baseball in Africa, Zimbabwe. So that's kind of eye-opening experience. After I come back to Japan, I really wanted to go to outside of Japan again. But, as a young students, university, college, I didn't have any skills or my English was not good. It's not easy to find a job outside of Japan. But still I was looking for the job. Then sometimes I was talking to my parents. Then one time, my father mentioned, why don't you go to the temple in the United States or Hawaii, Canada, or Brazil? There are Buddhist temples. Why don't you become a Buddhist minister there? Then, that sounds interesting. So to me, then after that, I went to Kyoto. I started learning Buddhism more seriously. Then I took about 3 years. I was in Kyoto to study Buddhism. Then after that, I was sent to Berkeley, California to take more training. Then I was assigned to Buddhist Church of Lodi. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a kind of brief summary of how I came to Seattle, to the United States.
Interesting. I guess I didn't realize that you were assigned to go to Zimbabwe. You didn't get to pick where you wanted to go for this Japanese Peace Corps.
I could choose. I think I could choose the area. I want to go to Africa. I want to go to Europe or South America. But I didn't choose. I didn't choose anything. Just, I don't know, someone assigned me to go to Zimbabwe.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And then I guess for the people that are listening that may not be as familiar with sort of temples in Japan. So you say that you're from a temple family.
Yeah.
Which means that your family runs a temple.
Yeah. Right.
Which is different than here in America.
That's true. So in Japan, usually the oldest son, first son, takes over father's place. So my father was the 16th generations of the head minister of my temple. Then now my older brother is the 17th generations of the head minister. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. That's right. I forgot that you have an older brother. I was going to ask if you were chonan, or the firstborn son, but you're not. That means that sensei can stay here in America with us, and he won't have to go back to Japan. So it's interesting. I guess I didn't realize that you had such like a long journey coming to become sort of a Buddhist minister because you started as a teacher first.
Yeah, first I became a school teacher. As I mentioned, my hobby, I really love baseball. So I started playing the baseball when I was 6, 7 years old. Then I continued playing the baseball. Of course, at a younger age, I wanted to become a professional baseball player like a Shohei Ohtani. But gradually, I understand how is my baseball skill level is. Then I kind of switch my way. Oh, I want to be the manager, coach, baseball coach. Then if I become a school teacher, maybe I can teach baseball, coach baseball at the school. So in Japan, each school has a baseball team. So I can coach. That's the reason why I pursue to become a Buddhist school teacher.
Oh, that's good to know. And I think that's a good segue into our first question we're going to answer from one of the listeners, or the call that we put out for questions to submit, which is, how do you describe the Buddha to people who have no idea what Buddhism is?
So that's a lots of way to answer that question. So one is, Buddha is not the creator. Buddha didn't create this world. Sometimes people compare Buddha and God. Then I sometimes hear the question, is Buddha create this world? I would say no. No, Buddha is not the creator. That's a one. Then Buddha is not there are many Buddhas, hundreds of thousands of Buddha. That's also we have to know. Buddha is not just one. So these two maybe people first has to understand. Then 3 is Buddha. Sometimes it is translated as awakened one. The person or being who is awakened. But probably, when people hear the Buddha, do you have some image of the Buddha?
Me personally,
Yeah.
I mean,
What do you imagine, visualize? What is a Buddha? What do you visualize?
I think it's hard because, like in the temple, we have images of the Buddha
Right.
that we use in some of our like obutsudan or home shrines, or at the main onaijing, the shrine area at our temple. But that's right. It's hard since the Buddha that we most commonly speak of, which is Amida Buddha, was not a real person. It's really hard to imagine what that person would look like. And I think I remember from a retreat I went to many, many years ago. It was directed for like college, high school students, and I think it was Reverend Fujimoto, Reverend Dennis, that asked, like, how do you know when you've seen a Buddha? And of course, because I was, a dumb high schooler, I was like, oh, a Buddha has like light shining out of his head. And so if I see someone on the street that has all these rays of sun, I'll be like, that's Buddha there. But in a truer sense, I think I remember the definitions of the Buddha that I think about is from a Dharma talk that Reverend Mas Kodani gave many, many years ago, which was like, a Buddha is hard to like see and understand because a Buddha lives in every minute like fully. And it's like, how do you calculate that? Because like as soon as I say, oh, fully, this minute, now it's gone. And like, so a Buddha experiences everything fully. And that's what I came to believe was like the awakened one meaning of the word Buddha. But that's just my opinion. What do you think, Sensei?
Yeah, when first, maybe before I started learning Buddhism, my image of Buddha is Buddha statue. The standing, especially the Jodo Shinshu temple, we have a standing Amida Buddha statue, then the color is gold. So, sometimes we hear, this person became a Buddha. So becoming a Buddha means, am I my skin color is gonna be gold, then am I gonna be the shining like those gold Buddha statue? So I only think Buddha's statue as a Buddha. But one we have to know is statue is one form of the Buddha. So statue of the Buddha is also telling us the aspect of what Buddha is. Of course, the color of gold has a meaning, the hand sign, hand posture has a meaning. So every aspect of the Buddha's statue has the meaning or telling us what the Buddha Dharma is. So Buddha can take the different forms. So statue is one of the form of the Buddha. Then I would say maybe sutra is the word or teaching, those written on the paper. That's also another form of Buddha to me. So those two are equally important. Then also even when we are chanting the sutra or reciting Buddha's name, that's also taking the form of sounds of the Buddha. So to me, Buddha is taking all different kinds of form. So Buddha is the one who can take different forms. Then the reason is because we need to feel or realize or think about Buddha, because Buddha doesn't have any concrete form, no smell, no color, no form. It says, teaching says so. But if it is so, we are no way to recognize what Buddha is. So that's why Buddha is taking all different kinds of form for us to be able to connect with myself and Buddha Dharma. So that's my understanding of the Buddha.
So Buddha takes many forms, and the form that Buddha takes is how we can relate and understand.
So that's beyond our conception. Buddha can take beyond our conception. So, but as a human beings, we want to have just one form of Buddha. What is Buddha? Buddha has to be this way. That's we always think. But Buddha is beyond our conception. So not just one form. So then maybe we can open our eyes, more flexible or open mind to understand the Buddhism.
I guess the first thing that comes to mind in listening to all of this is, when you're a kid and you're washing rice in the sink, and then you're a kid, so rice spills out, and then bachan, your grandma comes and says you can't waste rice. Buddha is in that grain of rice, right? And I think it's not that Buddha's Buddha's taking many forms, so you can understand the teaching, which is
we
shouldn't be wasteful. We should be stuff like that.
Yeah, through these forms, we can learn the guidance of the Buddha Dharma. So that's we have to understand. But of course, the statue is one important form of the Buddha. Then, which I think most of the people recognize. This is when we see the Buddha statue, we recognize. This is a Buddha. Yeah.
I think the one thing, at least for me, there's a large, maybe this is just in America, but there's a large, I think, misconception that when you go to a Japanese or Chinese restaurant and you see that really, I guess, fat monk, that people say, that's the Buddha, and we rub his belly for luck. But that's not exactly...
I would say that is a Chinese god. So I think it is different from Buddhism or different from Buddha. But it is interesting, because when Buddhism originated from India, they introduced to all different Asian countries. Then, of course, Buddhism was introduced to China, Korea, then Japan. Then, when Buddhism was introduced to other country, rather than denying other existing local traditional religion, somehow Buddhism and local teaching religion merged, then became that country's Buddhism. Like when Buddhism was introduced to China, already there's a Confucianism or Taoism was exist. So somehow Buddhism and Taoism and Confucianism kind of mixed and merged, then become the Chinese Buddhism. Then Buddhism was introduced to Japan. Then there was a Shinto tradition. Then somehow Buddhism there's a way, I don't know how, but always people try to find a way to coexist Buddhism and the local religion. Then sometimes that's merged. So that's why, those you are telling us Hotei-san, Chinese, how do you call that?
Like a monk?
Monk?
Maybe? I guess he's a god of luck.
That's also maybe I don't know. I didn't study much, but probably originated from Chinese tradition. But somehow that Chinese tradition and Buddhism some point merged, then became the part of Chinese Buddhism. That's really interesting history, I think.
That sounds good. Well, I think we've talked a lot.
Oh.
And so I think we might close this episode now. And if you want to learn more about anything that we've talked about today, be sure to submit any follow-up questions for Sensei, and we can talk about them at a future episode. But thank you, Sensei, for being here. Thanks to our producer and editor, Alex, as well. And also thank you for everyone that's tuning in and listening to it. Once again, if you have a question for Sensei, please don't hesitate to submit it. Links can be found in the description or in the description of our channel. And if you like what you hear, please tune in for our next episode of Mind a Minister, or check out the Seattle Betsuing Buddhist Temple online for more content. Once again, I'm Jason, and thank you for listening.
Thank you.